Mike Turpin. He is a former Attorney General. He's been extremely involved in the victims' rights movement. In fact, he's been speaking all over the country, Butch, and doing a lot of public speaking, and we're happy to have you with us this morning. How did you get involved in victims' rights?
Ben, my first job out of law school was police legal advisor at the Muskogee Police Department in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And I used to go to the scene of many crimes with the police officers there in Muskogee. And at the scene of a crime, the police officers would always read the Miranda warning that you've heard of. The Miranda warning, you have the right to remain silent, etc. They'd read the Miranda warning to somebody we just arrested for rape or robbery or murder. I always noticed that we never went over to a rape victim or a robbery victim or a couple that just had their farm burglarized. We never went over to them and said, by the way, we'd like to read you your rights that you're entitled to by the laws of the state of Oklahoma. In effect, Ben, we stepped over the body of the crime victim to read all these rights to the suspect. And I believe then that the day had come when we should balance the scales of justice and put some laws on the books for victims of crime. And we now have laws on the books in Oklahoma called the Victims' Bill of Rights, including victim compensation, and that means we now reimburse innocent victims of violent crime for their out-of-pocket expenses. Oklahoma's creative in the fact that we created a victim compensation fund that reimburses victims of crime in Oklahoma at no cost to the taxpayers. We have convicted criminals paying into the victim compensation fund, and we use that money to reimburse victims of crime.
Good morning. Mike Turpin here. I wish I could be there. In fact, I live about 3 blocks from the Will Rogers Theater, so I'm kind of with you in spirit. I'm out of state, but I want to say congratulations on 35 glorious years. Here we are. Look what we've all accomplished together. And I like to use the numbers. $91 million given away to innocent victims of violent crime. We don't just rehabilitate offenders in Oklahoma, we rehabilitate victims. We get them back on their feet. $91 million for victims. I gave this whole program some roots. But it's your job, with Mike Field's leadership, to give this whole program wings. Roots and wings. We got it started with lots of people way back when, but now it's your job to keep it going, keep a good thing going. There's givers and there's takers. There's givers and there's takers. As I look back over my life, I've noticed that takers, they eat better. But the givers, they sleep better. You are givers. You give your time, you give your talent, you give your passion to help the people of the state of Oklahoma. You're Captain Courageous. You're wearing the white hat. You're Dudley Do-Right. Thank God for the work that you do. And my favorite Supreme Court judge, Sandra Day O'Connor, she said the secret to happiness is 3 words. Work that matters. Work that matters. Work that matters. I can't say it enough and loud enough. That's what you're doing in all 77 counties of Oklahoma. God love you. I believe in you, and I love every one of you. Thank you for being here today. Here I am again. You thought you got rid of me. New ideas create new realities. Take that concept and run with it. New ideas create new realities. That's what happened 35 years ago. It was just a new idea, the Victim Bill of Rights. It was a new idea to put a victim witness coordinator, a victim witness advocate in every district attorney's office in the whole state. A lot of lawyers in the legislature didn't like that idea. It was a new idea to create a victim compensation fund. Innocent victims of violent crime, helping them with their out-of-pocket expenses, and creating a victim compensation board. A lot of the lawyers in the legislature, defense lawyers, you know them, you like them, you get along with them, but they were kind of against these ideas. So I'm just telling you, it wasn't as easy as people think that it was to get all this done. We had to walk the hallways with all the district attorneys and even the investigators and the secretaries and the legal assistants, everybody in DA's office across the state. You know, we came to the state capitol for days on end. But my hero in all that, looking back, I'm just remembering back here, a guy named Richard Gazay. He walked the hallways with us. And his daughter died at Camp Scott, the Girl Scout murder case. His daughter, Michelle Gazay, died in that god-awful murder case. So he was passionate about it. He was vested. He had ownership. You know what I'm talking about here. And he walked the hallways every day, shaking hands with every senator and every representative. They were moved by Richard Gazay talking about his daughter dying in a senseless murder. And they started to listen to us. And they started bobbing and nodding. That's right, folks. I like to do that. You guys, you men and women that, you know, present cases to a jury, you know what I'm talking about. You're not winning, you're not winning your case with a judge or a jury unless they're bobbing and nodding with you. But Richard was our leader, Richard Gazay. We walked the hallways, and guess what? We got the senators and representatives of the state of Oklahoma. They started bobbing and nodding with us. They said, we're with you. Victim Bill of Rights. It's going to happen. And it did. Because all of us worked together and pulled together. You must be laborious before you can be glorious. It wasn't easy. Hard work paid off. Thank you, everybody that has taken our program and kept it going all these years. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're doing God's work.
They called me from headquarters early that morning and told me that the scouts up here had found a little dead girl. And when I got here, to my surprise, there was to the one, there was 3, and it was a homicide.
On June 13, 1977, counselors at a Girl Scout camp in Locust Grove, Oklahoma, woke up to an unspeakable horror. 8-year-old Lori Farmer, 9-year-old Michelle Doucet, and 10-year-old Denise Milner had been brutally murdered.
Well, it was interesting. I was at work and I got a call from Georgianne. And Georgianne said, "You got to come home right now." I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "You got to come home right now." I said, "Well, tell me why I got to leave work." He said, "You got to come home now." So I figured I better come home now. So we came home, and these people are here, and they're well-meaning people, and they're here to help us. We don't know why they're here to help us. We know that Michelle's dead. We don't know anything about her death. So our neighbors came up, and they said, "Oh, it's terrible, isn't it?" We said, "Well, we don't know what's terrible." He said, "Well, turn on the TV." And we turned on the TV and learned about Michelle's death on the TV. No one here in the room told us anything about it. So this was kind of devastating. And of course, I was angry. Michelle was our daughter, or is our daughter, and she went to Girl Scout camp, and it was a Sunday. We put her in the bus and sent her there. She went to the camp, and for some reason, she was one of the 3 left over to put in the furthest most tent from the center of the camp. And that night, the perpetrator came in, killed our daughter and Lori, and then took the other girl out and raped her and then killed her. And of course, our daughter was raped and sodomized also. And it took 2 years for the suspect, after manhunts and other things, to be caught. And he was brought to Mays County and to put on trial. And unfortunately, the trial turned out to be almost a circus the way it was done. We did not have anyone that even was connected with the district attorney's office. And that's the thing, that you go through the system and sometimes you don't always get the results that you would like to have. And whether that's fair or not, that's life. You just have to accept it and go on. I read about Mike Turpin. He was at that time district attorney in Muskogee County, and he was working on the victims' rights legislation. And I contacted him, and I said, you know, he was a spark plug. He was the father of the whole program, and I helped him whatever I could do. I went down and lobbied, and we just did everything I could possibly think of. Spoke to groups and things like that. And as a result, we did get quite a few of the proposals, except for 2, that were passed. You know, I got to give Mr. Turpin really the credit for everything. He was the spark plug. He was the one that followed through and got I said we had 7 things we wanted? We got 5 out of 7. And that's pretty good percentages. This is a picture taken of the first board meeting. And in the picture, there's Doyle, Ella Asher Hill, and then myself, and then Doyle Argo. We were so fortunate to have Ella in our first board because we learned a lot from her about the inner workings of Oklahoma City, about her viewpoint on many things. And really were helpful that carried through all the years. And of course, Doyle he was a legal beagle, and he kept us straight on some of the laws. Things we couldn't do and couldn't say, and had to do and had to say. And there's just me. I'm just a lay member working on the board. Well, I think the most memorable thing is the fact that we were able to award money to people that were really in need of services. And the fact is that I feel so good that we did so much, and I worked with some great people, victims advocates. Sometimes we disagreed, but I usually agreed with what they did and wrote. I think that's the important thing, is the fact that we work together. We're not advocates of each other. We're not trying to make somebody look bad or anything like that. It was the idea that we're on the same wavelength, and if we can help, that's fine. And just it was a review. You know, I think I worked very hard, and I think people now who volunteer would just, they work very hard, and they're devoting their own time. And I know it cost me money, it cost me vacation time to go to the meetings, but that was okay. I was willing to give that up.
Here I am again. This may be the last time, but I do whatever Suzanne and Tina tell me to do. You know what's going on around here. But anyway, you guys. The current legislature, some of you are there today. Thank you. We need to keep a good thing going. We need your help. We've come a long ways. But as Robert Frost would say, the great poet, we have miles to go before we sleep. We still need more laws on the books. We still need more advocacy for victims of crime. I like to believe we've achieved victory over victimization to a certain extent in Oklahoma with all these laws that give victims and witnesses a participation, if you will, in the process. One of the people there with you today is a guy named Brooks Douglas. Let me just tell you about Brooks Douglas. Well, I don't need to tell you much because he's there and he'll tell you his own story. But I hired him in the Attorney General's office when I was AG. He was my legal intern. And I love Brooks Douglas. And what he went through is just, he'll tell you. But I ended up arguing his parents' case. His mom and dad are dead, they're gone, they're murdered. And I argued that case in front of the United States Supreme Court. I don't mind telling you, you can't break the silence of a room with the sound of your voice unless you got a theme. And my theme was, Mr. Chief Justice, my name is Mike Turpin, Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma. I'm here to advocate for the Reverend Richard Douglas and his wife Marilyn. I'm talking about Brooks' parents, Brooks and Leslie's parents. I said, I'm here to make sure they don't become forgotten people in the criminal justice process. That was my theme. I don't want them to become forgotten people in the criminal justice process. I'm just sharing this with you, brothers and sisters, out there in the prosecution world. You get in front of a jury or a judge, got to have a theme. And that was mine. We can't let the people, the law-abiding, God-fearing victims in Oklahoma ever become forgotten people. I'm talking to the legislators now, legislators that are there, we need your help. I'm talking to the prosecutors that are fighting the good fight and everybody in the district attorney's office across the state of Oklahoma. Brooks Douglas was one of my inspirations along the way. So Brooks, I'm glad you're there with him today. You fought a good fight. And keep it going. Thank you. One last reflection on how it all got done. We're walking the hallways of the state capitol. I already talked about that. We need the legislators today to help us even more. But what we got done back then was just a modern day miracle because we had a victim compensation fund created at no cost to the Oklahoma taxpayer. I know we get our money from various sources right now, but back then it was just convicted criminals paying into the victim compensation fund. Everybody thought, well, that's not going to work. Convicted criminals go to prison. They can't pay. Well, a lot of people don't go to prison, as you know, and that's appropriate, you know, maybe a deferred or suspended or whatever. Well, part of those sentences became pay money into the victim compensation fund back then. So all of a sudden we're raising money at no cost to the Oklahoma taxpayer. That's how we got the whole thing started. And that appealed to the legislators that they didn't have to put any taxpayers' money into that, except for our network of victim witness advocates. They had to put some money into that, but they were glad they did, the way this thing has worked out, as you can well imagine. Well, leading the crusade, legislatively, was a guy named John Luton, the senator from Muskogee. And some say his son became a pretty good prosecutor along the way in Muskogee and Tulsa County. Congratulations, Don David. And Jim Barker, the state representative from Muskogee. I was the DA there, so I went to my state senator, John Luton, and my state representative, Jim Barker. Well, Jim was Speaker of the House, so it worked out pretty well. You got the most respected senator in the whole state, John Luton, and then the Speaker of the House, both from Muskogee. and they introduced the legislation. It was our job to walk the hallways and pass it, but with that kind of help at the top, Senator John Luton and Representative Jim Barker, we were off to a pretty good start.